Major Hollywood studios don't make horror films because of a love of the genre, it's business. Scary movies are seen as low risk enterprises with small budgets and extraordinary word of mouth from the fan base, supplementing an already reduced advertising budget. It was true when Frankenstein came out, and it's definitely even more true today with internet. Producers don't need a horror film to make $200 million to break even. They often just need 35. That's an offer they just can't refuse. Spend 15 to $20 million on a 4 location, 5 actor film with a fraction of the behind the camera talent of a major production, you could make Hereditary 15 times over for what Captain Marvel cost. That's the real numbers, by the way, not an exaggeration. And today, with additional revenue opportunities having become basically unlimited, even a film that struggles at the box office becomes a long-term strategic win. Physical media, yes, but more so licensing to streaming services has provided an escape valve for films that just didn't find their audience on opening weekend. But it wasn't always this way. Horror's cheapness may have limited the risk, but it didn't eliminate it. Not in the 70s and earlier, when movies had longer release windows but far less screens to play on. Physical prints of the movies had to be shipped around the country, coordinated with local advertising and deals with individual independently owned theaters. A little monster movie had to work for its pay. And it didn't always work. Sure, movies could be licensed to television and overseas distributors after their initial release, but in general, they needed to make back their budgets on the big screen or they'd lose money, at least until technology came along decades later to bail them out. This was never an indication of quality, by the way. Genuine genre classics were box office disasters. Over time, their reputations kept them alive in the hearts of fans, and their failure to sell tickets was forgotten. Bob Clark's and Ray Moore's 1974 classic Black Christmas is a great example. Produced for $685,000, it only grossed $425,000 during its initial run. And that's not even taking into account the exhibitor's cut of the ticket or the money it took to promote the movie. Has Black Christmas since made a profit? Oh, yeah, for sure, many times over. But the initial impact of the film's soft opening must be viewed in terms of how it affected the horror genre's evolution. It may well be the film that lit the fuse on the slasher movie craze, but it was Halloween that actually exploded it. Why is that? Because John Carpenter's film grossed $47 million off a $325,000 budget. Sean Cunningham didn't send Victor Miller out to see Black Christmas. He sent him to watch Halloween. What would the genre look like today had it been Bob Clark's moodier, more mysterious take on the body count thriller that became the template? Impossible to say, but what is clear is that Hollywood didn't rush 24 Black Christmas clones into production in '74. Money has always been the guiding hand in movies, and in niches like horror even more so. It's not possible to ignore the trends that serve as milestones in the genre's history. From the classic monster films of the '30s to giant nuclear insects of the '50s, the Gothic revivals of the '60s, the slasher movies of the late '70s and early '80s, the scream wave of the late '90s, the 2000s, J-horror and so-called torture porn waves, even minor movements such as the endless rip-offs and derivative works of Frankenstein, Godzilla, The Exorcist, and Night of the Living Dead. Each movement was inspired by a single movie that made a ton of cash for its producers. In 1980, the Atlanta, Georgia-based rock band The Brains released a song titled Money Changes Everything. It was pretty much about this topic, albeit coded as a love song of sorts. Outside the Atlanta metro area, the song went pretty much unheard. It was great, but it would be a stretch to call it a hit. In 1983, mainstream pop star Cyndi Lauper recorded it, and that's the reason you know the song. Thing is, very few would even remember Money Changes Everything if it weren't for Lauper's version. In commercial arts, money does lead to legacy. The Brains version is Black Christmas. Lauper's take is Halloween. You could even argue that Black Christmas might not even be the landmark it is if Halloween had not been made. The point of this isn't to decry the movie industry as hopelessly mercenary, though it obviously is. It's to remind everyone who loves these movies that you'll get more of the type of movie you pay for. And just as importantly, what your friends pay for. If you see something you love, be sure to scream it out from the mountaintop to every movie fan who will listen, because it's not just about getting creative people paid when they make something you enjoy, but making sure that the genre's future is in the hands of the fans. There's nothing wrong with big mainstream horror movies, but if that's all that makes money, that's all we'll get. Don't let those smaller, more obscure masterworks go under-recognized, because we need a lot more of them.